We have a house that we're there.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
There's like one.
Yes.
Starts out
Right.
and they.
It's just a version.
Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The heat wave edition of the Columbia Economic Development Board of Directors. Welcome. Lot of stuff to cover today. And as you can see, there's a file of documentation that goes with it, some of which probably looks familiar and a lot of which looks unfamiliar, but will be explained by our staff and others here today. I ask those of you who are going to tell us what these various pieces of the pile are to go slow. Make sure we're following with you as to which goes with what topic and where on the agenda. We are going to begin today with the loan committee. And for that, we'll begin with the portfolio dashboard and Margaret.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Good morning. We'll start with loan client A. Mike Tucker actually had a conversation with the client. He agreed to a 4-month plan to bring his account current. We emailed him a confirmation of the terms, and we also sent that via certified mail, which he has not signed for. We have not yet received a check.
We're on page 2. For those of you who haven't been. Thank you. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
Loan client B, we received payment yesterday. That account is now current. Loan client C, we have a payment pending in our loan court. So we believe that client will be at least current on one of his 2 loans. I don't have an update on loan client D, and loan client E, we're in touch with him and hoping to receive that payment within the next week. Are there questions on that?
Are they in the similar industries, loan client A and the other ones that are hard to get in touch with? Is
No, actually, they're all in different industries.
there a certain type of industry that seems to be more at risk of default than others?
I guess, not really sure about that.
Perhaps, at a certain point, we could go into a brief executive session. Maybe on my report, because we do have the ability to do that to discuss, financial matters related to clients. And I think you'll see, it'll take 5 minutes,
Sure.
but I think it'll be useful to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the loan portfolio? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. The loan committee is recommending that they update the loan committee charter, which begins on page 3.
There were no significant changes. It was just the ordinary course of updating it for the benefit of the authority budget office.
Go ahead, motion to approve.
So move. Second.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. On to the specific loan request. We'll begin with puddings.
So good morning, everyone. This is page 5 in your packet. This is Pudding Mix LLC, a restaurant located in Germantown. The request of us was $50,000 that we will, of course, split between our 2 loan funds, with a monthly payment being $812.09, interest rate of 7.75%. The purpose of the loan is to purchase fixtures, supplies, and provide some working capital, and the collateral being a lien on the business assets, as well as a personal guarantee of the principals. This is Pudding Mix LLC in Germantown.
I might add, we will also have a mortgage on the property.
Questions?
What position will we be on the mortgage?
Third. If there are no concerns, anyone have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. On to the room.
Actually, this plan had been approved last month for a $50,000 loan. They had asked us to request a higher dollar amount in the event that they couldn't find the funds via a private loan, and they have done that. So They're not looking for the higher dollar amount. They've already been approved for $50,000 and we expect to close on that loan within the next month. So I'll move on to Friends of the Public Square, if that's all right.
Yes, please.
Okay, this is a request for $100,000 bridge loan. There will be interest-only payments of $416.67 for 12 months, and the loan will be paid in full upon reimbursement by the New York Dormitory Authority grant funds. The interest rate is 5%, which is what we have charged other nonprofits, and the purpose is to bridge the gap between paying for the approved activities and receiving reimbursement from New York State. We had a representative from FOPS at our loan committee meeting, and he explained the progress and the process. And this was recommended to the full board by the loan committee.
There are several grants that they have received. One for $125,000 from Senator Hinchey, and a matching grant through Assemblymember Barrett for 100. They're both 125 for a total of 250, and they're advantaged by the Dormitory Authority. I have spoken to representatives of Dormitory Authority, and they understand that they've done this on other projects. Unfortunately, the way the state grant programs work, they're reimbursable. The best part of this is with ESD, they're only reimbursable when the project is completed. Where here, they're reimbursable on a draw basis. So they, and what we did work through with the not-for-profit, that is that they put a box around a particular phase of the project. So it's not where if it's going on forever. In addition to the $250,000, we were helpful last year in getting them a $500,000 grant from Empire State Development. I know that one of the issues that this loan would, the approval would be contingent upon is resolving any issues with the city with respect to the project, because the city owns the park, of course. And they have a memorandum of understanding with the city, but there are still some legal issues as to how does a not-for-profit get a grant to come in and do work on someone else's property. We think that can be resolved, but they won't start work until all those questions are answered, and we won't close the loan until we're ready to start work. I think that it's we've done this for Philmont beautification. We've done it twice, $100,000. In both cases, they were USDA grants. And actually the USDA agreed to send the check to us directly. The issue here is that the 100,000 may anticipate doing $50,000 or $75,000 worth of work. We would advance that to them. They would pay, Dormitory Authority would pay them back. They would use the money again, but there is a 12-month block on it that they can't use it as a revolver beyond the 12 months, and we would get any out of the disbursements on the grant at that point, unless they came back to us for further approval. One of the reasons I think that I'm attracted to it is, Martha, Steve, how much do we have CEDC loan fund to lend right now? 800?
About $800,000 per loan.
And, we can't put the money out on the street too fast, or we won't have, doesn't come back in time for us to loan it again. And we did a similar loan to the Hudson Development Corporation, so they could get the CSX property, which gave them the legal access to the CAS site, and enabled them to sell the property for over $3 million, because initially they didn't have access except from Third Street. So, we've done this a couple of times with other not-for-profits where, I know it's in the thick of things to pick up $5,000 in interest isn't the end of the world, but it is revenue, and we do have the capacity to do it without negatively impacting our business loan funds. So Martha and Steve and I would ask you to consider approving the loan.
Questions, discussion?
I think they've really thought through it and have some good contractors and good.
Yeah, they
a
can
good
represent
plan.
that for the.
I think, but in all likelihood, it's gonna go back out, and then they'll come and borrow it.
Yeah, they'll have to
The
come
next
back
phase.
if it's intended. We anticipate it'll be longer than the 12 months, they have to come back for approval.
So it's gonna be a high touch.
Yeah.
A high touch kind of deal, which is wondering if we should get a little more on the rate or a fee or something.
John?
I just wondering if all of the elections happening, since everybody who's running is Hudson that row, agree on this project, or, is there any possibility that there'll be a political snafu?
That's why I think it's contingent on making sure that all of the agreements are in place with the city
Yeah.
before
Yeah,
this loan gets closed.
right, right.
As I think we've learned from the loan committee and the board, we don't want to be the first money in.
When he presented to the loan committee and I looked at their website, they seem to have a variety of support, like across the board of different businesses, people around.
And again, they have enough money to do the initial work. I don't know that they'll have enough money to, do some of the hardscape that they thought they'd like to do, so there'll be concerts and things, but that's in phase 2 and 3, which we're not part of.
And we're sure that they have the capacity to make even the interest payments to
They
all
assured
the
me they
donations,
do.
yeah.
What we did with the HDC, and we could do that here, we did have them put 5,000, we did have them, it was a $200,000 loan, we had them put $10,000 in a debt service reserve
Interest
account.
reserve, yeah,
So I think we'll do that here,
that's a good idea.
and just then they don't have to pay us every month.
Right, then they don't have to worry, like, oh, we got your interest.
We don't have to chase the $400 a month.
Right.
But I do think that, the level of volunteer engagement is certainly impressive in terms of the start employment and the capacity that the individuals involved have. There's one is a whitest of white shoe lawyers from New York City, and another is ran businesses and so I think that it's not as if we're dealing with a startup organization in the basement of a. They have the capacity to manage the project itself, which I think is one of the questions sort of.
And that they're improving the fountain and they're taking notice of the Veterans Memorial, and those are kind of the two things that they like.
And their attempt is to make it more user friendly, so it doesn't continue to be the problem area that it's become with loitering and drug use.
So they're gonna do the construction, are they doing a public bid?
Yeah,
They did,
Oh, okay.
they
All
did
right,
bid.
all right.
They already chose the contract.
they did it already.
All right, great, sweet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a motion to act on this proposed loan?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Our thanks to the staff and the loan committee for your due diligence on all this.
Martha and Steve have a really exciting pre-presentation and report on the status of our SBA relationship and also some of the work we've done over the past 3 years with the loan and grant program.
Which one is this now?
This, the big one. with the,
Yeah, so that.
We did that so we could read it.
One of the larger sheets in your packet, or not in the packet, but on the table. State, that's the one, Dan, that's it right there, everybody. All right, so this is our report that takes us back to June of 2022, runs through June of 25. It's the 3 grants that were administered through by CEDC during that period, the Columbia Forward Grant. And then the 2024 version of Micro Enterprise Grant and 2025 version of the Micro Enterprise Grant. That's 53 recipients received grant funds since June of 2022. And those 53 businesses also received $1.1 million in loans from CEDC during the same period. That 1.1 million is part of the 2.6, where we've done 1.4 million of loans, to other businesses, for the same time frame, for a total of $3.2 million in benefit to the businesses since June of 2022. Speaks highly to the fact that for those businesses who understand how to leverage cash, the opportunity to partner a grant with loan is truly beneficial to those businesses. Also of note, we mentioned the CEDC loan fund earlier. Through May of this year, we've done $193,000 worth of loans from our CEDC loan fund at an average of $39,000 a month. You'll recall the Evergreen report. We are evergreen at $45,000 a month average, so we are well on track to maintain an evergreen loan fund.
And that's with what, a 10% default rate,
With a
which we never
10%
had.
default rate, which we've never had. Our pipeline, Martha and I currently manage, currently just over $500,000 potential loan clients. We'll bring before you over the course of the next couple of months. And then I'm going to bring Martha in to discuss the SBA grant and well.
And any questions on this? I mean, we're, one of the purposes of this is for our July Board of Supervisors Economic Development Committee. Because we wanted to demonstrate to the supervisors how their $50,000 Columbia Forward grant funding was used, how the $450,000 that in the Columbia Forward grant that we shared with the chamber was utilized to bring some of these businesses to the table. And the county is the legal applicant, eligible applicant for the micro enterprise program. And then they manage us to run it. But I do think they're the only municipality is the only eligible applicant. So what we've done is we've gone to them and asked them to apply on our behalf. And then they get the money and they contract with us to manage it. But, you know, when you think of all the other things that we do, I don't know that we have marketed it as well, even within our own circles, the impact of over $1 million a year consistently for the loan and grant program for small businesses.
So it's great to see all this information. Thank you. I guess this is what suddenly, as I see the municipalities listed, it just strikes me. Is there another list of those clients who either weren't able to proceed for their own reason or were rejected by the loan committee?
Two things. One, because this is just the group that got grants and loans.
Right.
We can provide the
I see.
next
Okay.
time,
So it's just the.
all of the towns.
Hmm.
Because we do report that to the supervisor.
I was just.
In other words,
No
there are
politician.
85 loans that aren't broken out individually here that went to other businesses. This list only shows the loans that went to people who leveraged it with grants.
Okay.
So we, how many towns, Steve, are we still late on?
I believe we're now down like on 2 towns.
2 towns.
Tonic,
So that we have loans.
Taconic and
I'm not sure the site.
Gallup.
Ballot and
Okay.
So,
when is it?
but for.
Yeah, and I would say
That's
that those
awesome.
towns don't really have much businesses, they
Right.
don't, there's no business
Yeah.
center, so. There's,
And I think
I mean, I
the
guess-
benefit of presenting it to you and having these questions is we can tighten up our presentation to the supervisors, because that will be something they'll.
I mean, given that Kinderhook is the largest town with 3 villages, it's strange to see absolutely no.
We have, Martha, we have several in Kinderhook, right? That did get grants.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I can see that we need to update the municipality. We have Hudson, which is oftentimes their mailing address and that's not where they're located. So we'll correct that.
Yeah, that's good, but any other
The supervisors might take notice of that.
feedback? Well. I won't say.
Yeah.
There's Hudson supervisors need to see that we work very hard for them too.
So just to reiterate, the micro loan grants are what's granted to the county that subcontract costs.
And the program is pretty technical. Steve or Martha, you would have the details, tip of your tongue, is eligibility.
On the micro enterprise grant, yes, 50%, 51% of the funds need to go to startups, the rest can go to existing businesses. You have to have 5 or fewer employees, including the owner. If the owner does not qualify as low to moderate income, they need to create one full-time equivalent job. Yeah, there are a lot of restrictions.
And you have to take a 4-hour class that,
Correct.
Martha and Steve have, orchestrated.
They have to
Or
create-
four 1-hour sessions.
For a 2-hour session. And then they also have to create a project and a budget to be approved by New York State.
And we, the first, round, you may recall, we were overbooked because of, we were not exactly sure how to manage it. So we waived our fee, but, we are entitled to, $25,000 fee to manage this program. So, and the, 2 second, between 2 minutes on Kinderhook grant program, while we're doing most grants.
Sure, so the next grant that we're about to administer is the Kinderhook Small Project Fund. This is part of the DRI grant fund that Kinderhook received of over $2 million. They set aside a $300,000 small project fund that we will be presenting to businesses and residents of the village of Kinderhook tomorrow afternoon at their firehouse there on Route 9. Again, it's a small project fund and it goes toward municipal or mixed use and commercial businesses within a defined boundary map set by the state. And it will have an opportunity for grant funds for small business purchases of permanent equipment, facade improvements, as well as upper story apartment renovations for those who qualify. And again, that's a presentation tomorrow at Firehouse in Kinderhook.
And the, village, will put together the, review committee, to award those funds, and we're just the administrate it, and, not to think that I'm focused on fees, but what's our fee on that?
10%, so it's a $30,000 admin.
You
What
are,
time is that? What time is that?
At 5 o'clock.
Okay.
you are our board.
Oh, so, okay, yeah.
Watching out for. Thank you, but you can see the level of work, because, you know, when you look at the, overall total of 121 grants over 3 years, plus the additional grants from the Kinderhook project. You know, Mark and Steve really have a well-oiled machine. So thank you both, and thank you, Kat and Lisa, for your engagement and supporting the program as well. And Violet, marketing. We just did an ad because, now you're just gonna wrap up with the good SBA news, Martha?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I previously reported that we were approved for a $1 million loan from the SBA. We've already closed on that loan and we've taken our first drawdown of $350,000, and we've been waiting to find out about our grant, the annual technical assistance grant, and we found out on June 9th that we were approved for $299,000. So we're very pleased about that.
It's $30,000 more than last year.
We do need to apply for that grant. It's a non-competitive application, but they really want to have that in their hands by Friday. So we're very busy in our department.
Yes, you are. All right, very good. Thank you. Mike, we're gonna go on to your report, starting with the treasury report, please.
Thank you. It's page 8 of the packet. Is the balance sheet. We're showing total assets of 5.4 million, which is $429,000 more than April, as of April 30th. I'm not sure, April 30th of, I'm not sure why we aren't looking at May numbers, but, in any event, the balance sheet is very stable. Its increase is primarily, due to the rate of use assets, which the accountants, factor in as a calculation, not really, relevant to our, income and expense or cash flow. And, the $250,000 of additional SBA money. And so, I think that, we're doing well on, maintaining a stable balance sheet. On page 9, the P&L, we are down $7,000 in revenue. but we're down $70,000 in expenses. A good portion of, we're down on employer expense because we've had not refilled the position that we had hired for, and we're down on new initiatives. And we're down on professional fees only because of timing. UHY had not gotten us all of the bills for the audit, so we hadn't accrued them. But you know, if you take that 25,000 out, we're about $40,000 good. There's a good on the budget. Any questions? One of the things in your report, something called attracting businesses to Columbia County's villages and hamlets. It looks like this. And as part of this implementation of the strategic plan and some of the discussion that we've had, you know, what can we do or should we be doing, and what should we be drilling down on in terms of trying to assist the vibrancy of the core villages, Philmont, Kinderhook, Orlacia, and Chatham. You know, we have good working relationships there. Martha and Steve and I did a forum for about 50 people in Chatham for their bit, organized by their economic development committee. You know, we are, and also if you go to the last page, you know, when we, Wikipedia tells me these are the hamlets in Columbia County. Jim said he was going to test me to see if I could know where they were. And you know, when you really look at it, it's, you know, Old Chatham, North Chatham. Anywhere else that someone could point out to me that you would define it as a
Germantown called it hamlet also.
is that on
I
here?
know they've got a big school district.
Oh, the town, that's good.
We have down as
Yeah.
a town.
Oh,
Yeah, but so if they're
We call it a hamlet in Germantown.
okay, so we'll
I
do
don't know
that.
how the county.
Okay. So again, anyone, and I think what we're looking at is, you know, how do we, showcase the uniqueness of the individual hamlets, because there's also a common theme as to why they are, hamlets in the county have some, high quality of life, looking at, specific businesses, and the benefit of promoting tourism. We can enhance those businesses by the financial incentives that Martha and Steve's program provide. We can continue to talk with the local officials about streamlining their permitting and regulatory work in an informational and advisory way, not in an effort to dictate what a community should set as their own standards. We can leverage the local and regional resources that we do through the state CFA funding applications, and this year they're due on July 31st, and we've been working with 15 different not-for-profits and businesses. What can we continue to do to foster a supportive business environment? The community partner with, this came out of, some of it out of GP chat, where they said partner with organizations like Columbia Economic Development, so at least we're on the radar. Promote area effectively, working with the county tourism department, the Chamber of Commerce. Improve infrastructure, as we are doing with, water, sewer, gas, electric, broadband, transportation. Assist in investment in that infrastructure through grants. We just sent an email to all of the supervisors with respect to the governor's announcement last week of funding available for, water and sewer projects. And continuing to foster entrepreneurship and address specific challenges. We're, Chris and I are thinking of taking kind of a walk through 7 or 8 of key areas, core villages, places like Germantown, and just seeing, you know, how many vacancies are there, and get, you know, I have this gadget that I can drive by any house in the world, and literally in the world, and they'll tell me who owns it for $99 a month or a year. So And then so go to that owner and say, do you need a loan to help fix up your space to rent it? Or do you have a tenant who, isn't able to sign because they don't have the money to do the fit up? And a little more proactive, engagement, to see, you know, we could announce a $250,000 special loan program every quarter. And if nobody comes to use it, just roll it over to the next. But if we could start to do some targeting funding like we did during COVID to businesses that had walk-in trade. I think that, you know, we can demonstrate some ability to, help strengthen some of those communities. And of course,
What about psychological counseling?
well,
In Kinderhook Village, it seems like a lot of property owners could use that.
well, maybe we
Group
could.
therapy.
We could.
Well, I don't,
Economic
you know, I mean, most of the, vacant stuff in the square, you know, there's half to the size of vacant because people just own multiple properties and don't seem to just sit on them, don't do anything.
Maybe we could have a.
What's that
mobile-
about?
We could have a mobile, unit and go down, have the town.
Lucy with her little sign, you know, yeah.
But again, we always do this in concert with the town supervisor and the village mayor. Because that's where our funding comes from. You know, when the Chatham group called us, said they were the town's economic development committee. We called and yes, in fact, they were. Sometimes we've had that where they weren't. And you know, the supervisor hosted the meeting because his committee wanted to do it. And you know, we do that whether it's New Lebanon or whether it's Chatham. It doesn't matter, you know, which side of the aisle the supervisor's on. When they're giving us $750,000 a year, I don't wanna have a road show out there in a community where it's a surprise to the elected leader of the community. Sometimes that upsets the people who wanna organize it. Because, you know, they have multiple agendas of their own. Where they wanna, you know, get ahead of those elected officials. And so, you know, we do, some people would wish we weren't so strict about ensuring that if the people have elected the town board and a supervisor, it's not for us to decide who else should be engaging with us and leading the town.
I have a question, is this being used?
I just did it so we could get a discussion.
communication? Okay.
And you know, let's talk about it at the next meeting because we do have a couple of other things, but
I can give you a few more Hamlets, just. to-
yeah, well, we'll revise the Hamlet list and we'll
just based
also.
on me going to
pick some, you know, what people, in these various categories, what specific thing do you think we could do? And if we can do it in Germantown, then it's probably good to do in all of the
And
hamlets.
might be good to kind of look at because our comprehensive plan is rural by design, so I don't see. It would just, if this is being used for anything, it would be nice to just leave in a little bit of the, you know, kind of, that's one of the things that. makes-
Agra.
Yeah, the rural.
And I think it was more for a discussion, to stimulate this kind of discussion.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
It's
good.
a
to-
guide.
I think one thing you'll find if you look around the country at villages that have done a really great job of attracting business and kind of tourism. Like I'm thinking out in the Finger Lakes and stuff is undergrounding power lines and cables. And it's a resiliency thing too, and it improves the appearance and look, it increases sidewalk space, it does so many things, and yet nobody will look at it because it's so expensive, which it is. So, I mean, if there were some government program, especially around climate resilience, you know, to undergrounding in village centers, I think it would be a huge improvement.
I know they looked at that in Kinderhook with the,
Yeah.
with the money.
Nobody would even consider it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, as you know, part of our job is, with Columbia Forward and the supervisor's funding is to assist, the local communities with economic development activities as well as providing loans and grants to specific businesses in those areas. And I think by having, tailoring this a bit so we can take, the roadshow without creating a new roadshow every time you go out. And, you know, try to give them, maybe at the 30,000 and the 5,000 foot level, and then they can buy into what they feel is appropriate for their communities. It will give us a little more connectivity and raise our visibility, which will help the loan program as well.
Mike, can we go back to the treasury report just for a moment?
Yeah.
We didn't approve that, so.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I have a motion to accept the treasury report, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Back to you, Mike.
I'd like to ask Chris Brown, well, first of all, I did include, just for informational purposes, we just had the most recent median teacher salary data came out for the county. You can see that the starting salaries are 52,000 on an average, and we've been here for 20+ years as a teacher, you're only making 104. You know, it was interesting, you know, to see, and unfortunately, the data for these types of things is a year more lag. The other report shows that in 2015, 16, there were a total of 6,900 students in K through 12 in Columbia County. Today, there's 5,783, which is a 20% drop over 10 years. You can also see what grades the drop have been, and you can see kindergarten is down 25%, fourth grade is down 29%, ninth grade is down 21%. What scares me is it's pretty stable, but there are only 490 seniors in the 6 statistics in terms of and you know, from many of the schools are now in a situation where they have extra space. Jim and I met with representatives of the Connect School District last week to discuss some ways that CEDC can provide some support. We had worked with them on moving forward with converting some of their space into childcare. We did work with them on a process of evaluating whether they could build housing on a property they own across from the high school complex. You know, they wanted it only for their employees. There's some fair housing issues with that, but you know, there are ways to manage that. You know, we think that some of those opportunities can be then piloted there and used at other school districts in the county.
This doesn't include homeschool kids, these are just kids enrolled in public school.
And we also have at the northern end of the county and the southern end of the county, we have county residents who are going to schools in Dutchess County and Rensselaer County. But we can't, you know, the data doesn't allow us to break that out without probably going to each district.
Is there data around the teacher pay, how it compares to the statewide, regional?
Yeah, I can send you that report. And then, Chris is going to just do a quick update on home sales and on the cost of living here. He's the primary guy, because everything in color.
I learned something about Hamlis while you were speaking, so Hamlis are basically just unincorporated villages. I think Rosendale used to be a village, now it's just a hamlet,
Right.
Incorporated.
I was involved in worked for a law firm that was involved in solving the village into the town.
All right, so we're gonna start with this smaller sheet first, just has one color on it, the yellow highlighted piece. This is the last 5 years of sales that originated from outside of the immediate area. The immediate area is included on here, but we mostly focus on this 1 for 5 locations that are outside of Columbia County. We've not yet bounced back to the levels that we were at for in-county home sales. We're at 60%. We were at 64% at the very beginning of 2020, or at the end of 2020, excuse me. In the Hudson Valley region, but outside of the county has stayed pretty much the same. The ones that have changed the most year to year, there's a lot of variation with the New York City purchasers. That's really bounced up and down the last couple of years. The one that's really interesting to me is out of state is now higher than it's ever been. When we speak to Pattern for Progress, when we speak to the Capital District Regional Plan Commission, typically these are climate refugees. You know, we have access to water, we've got access to the city, so these are things that are really attracted to folks from outside of the state. Most of those, well, the majority of the out of state, or plurality, I should say, of the out of state purchasers are from LA County. At first, we thought that might have been something to do with movie and film tax credits, but when interviewed, the majority of them do say that it's climate refugees.
And, you know, there's a little bit of, statistical error in these numbers, because what we do is we get the, real property tax office provides us with all of the home sales for the year. And then we go through, and sit around the table and decide, you know, what's 50 miles away, what's the New York City area, what's out of state. And then, come up with the count. And yeah, it's not exact, but it's pretty close to, because we're using the raw data from the county clerk's office.
It's hard to, this may be anecdotal, but we do know from previous patent reports that household incomes coming into the county have far surpassed the household incomes that are leaving the county. Typically, the out-of-state and other New York State county buyers have far higher household incomes, so they're bidding up the purchase price of these homes. The most glaring statistic here is probably the total column. We are down to 696 closed sales in 2024 compared to 1149 in 2020. But obviously there was a pandemic peak between 20 and 21, but sales have declined precipitously ever since.
And that's consistent with state and national averages on inventory.
I think the interest rate environment has something to do with this, people that are sitting on, 3% mortgages going,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A bit of a locked market still, although we are.
And there was a media piece the other day that showed, 55 plus people can't afford to move. Because, they have either low mortgages or no mortgage.
Yep.
And to sell and to then have a 20% increase in purchasing the next house. You're gonna have to
My in-laws are in that bucket. We sliced and diced the numbers so many times.
just stay.
They're just staying, they've got a big house. But it's just cheaper than going anywhere else.
I have an idea for that. We'll get into it today.
Chris has been very busy. We went over a list yesterday of
For the project,
25 projects.
about 32 projects.
And you need 10 to get one, but we are moving forward and did ask him to update us on the median household income numbers that just came out. And then show us where the bulk of the workforce on Columbia County falls in terms of affordability. It's scary.
So our AMI, the area median income that the Department of Housing and Urban Development comes up with every year for.
Whether it's the side that has the leaf color or the month color.
Well, I'm not starting on any side, I just overview, but then we'll start on the side that has the most color.
3 minutes.
So AMIs across the board in the county, regardless of household size, went up about 7%. Real wages went up about 3.5% year to year, so AMI continues to outpace local wages. So what that essentially means is now the area median income, which is the determinant for a lot of housing subsidies. For one person, it's now $79,000. For 4 people, it's $113,000. Our most common household size across Columbia County is about 2 people, it's 2.1. So for 2 people now it's $86,000. Those are just numbers to keep in mind as we go through this. I will apologize for not putting this in color order. I'm not a visual learner. That would have made more sense. So the way these are ranked is least proportion of jobs in the county to the highest proportion of jobs in the county. These are just jobs. So these aren't people who live in the county and work elsewhere. These are the jobs that currently exist in Columbia County. One thing that we know about it is that 50% of our workforce commutes into the county from outside. So about 7,500 people on this list live elsewhere from Columbia County, just if you extrapolate to that degree. The areas that we have the highest proportion, 60% of the area median income. So those jobs are in public admin, forestry, fishing, hunting, educational, and retail. And then the next biggest cohort is the 110%. Or actually, I'm sorry, it's the 100% cohort. Manufacturing admin are the two that the average wage for those industries are right at 100%. What this all means, we can kind of explain in a little more detail on the other side. So if you break this out, these are, your area median income bands, and then what 30% of that monthly salary, what those folks would be able to afford. Again, 30% is the cutoff for what is considered a housing cost burden. So that's a recommendation for what your total housing cost should be below. So about a quarter of the county, and this is for a 1-person household, would be able to afford about $1,869 per month, all of their housing costs. And then this large number, the 51 to 60% AMI, that's about $1,400. But if you want to look at an average household in Columbia County, which again is about 2.1 people, that average household earns a little over 83,000, which is between 80% and 100% of AMI, which means they can afford a little under $2,100 a month. Right now, there are 51 apartments in the county at that price point, and there are 11 homes at that price point. 2 of those are demos and 2 are full gut rehabs. So there's about 7 houses that you can afford that are livable. If you double up, so say if you took the biggest portion here, the 60% AMI, you double those folks up, they're still looking at an average payment of about 2,800. And there aren't that many more. I think there are 20 more apartments once you add that level onto it. And then there are about 8 more homes. And again, if you're doubling up, that number is 6,300. So that's 3,000 jobs that are looking for that, those units at that price point, and we have about 80 between houses and apartments across the county. Obviously, there are folks that live in places that they are currently affording at that AMI. But again, there are 7,000 people that commute into the county every day for work, or 5 days a week for work, and they're still facing a real shortage in units. So ultimately, what this leads into is when we're talking about, what price points should we be building for? This helps inform that. So we know that 60% is the biggest need. 50% and below of AMI is actually our smallest category. But there's obviously a lot of need at that price point. But people are at 50% of AMI, people are priced out of basically everything in the county. But the largest cohorts being between 80 and 100 and 51 and 60 are interesting because most of the programs that we see are built for 80% and below. And that number is actually only 9% of all of the jobs in the county. What questions?
Question, when you look at the housing burden, does that take some sort of stop or repair?
Yeah, it's everything. So at 30% has to include.
Lower end of the housing market.
When we did it,
Yeah.
several months ago, we did it, and yeah, that with utilities, maintenance, basic, costs. You can only afford $150,000 house, and there are. So, obviously, I don't know how you solve this problem, but at least this helps us, focus in on what government grants can do the most to benefit the county.
Good. Scary.
You wanna talk about the courthouse? Let's, take care of the other matters, and then at the end, I have another thing to bring up, Mr. Chairman. But if you wanna move to your board matters,
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mike. In the packet. Is the land bank and admin services contract. You can find where that is. It is on page 11.
just briefly, Mr. Chairman, as you know, we assisted Columbia County in setting up the Columbia County Land Bank. There were only 2 or 3 land bank, slots available that were left. We convinced the county to move forward to apply for one, and it was awarded. Our thought was that we weren't sure at the time that we wanted one or needed one, but I felt that if we didn't get it, there would be no more, and it would require the legislature to add additional licenses, if you will. We did that a year ago. We entered into this contract with the county initially for 6 months, and then renewed it in January for an additional 6 months. And we did that at $15,000 for 6 months, so it's $30,000 a year. Now that the land bank was set up, Matt Burrell is the chairman of the land bank, and the supervisors, Knott and Adams, are the supervisors who are represented on it. And then the other 4 members are PJ Peeler, Chris Watts from County Attorney's Office, Suzette Booty from the Real Property Tax Office, and the county planner, Patrice Byrne. So now that we're going into a full year and there's a grant for administrative purposes that is up to 100,000, the land bank approved a budget at its meeting last week that would compensate us $60,000 a year for overseeing and managing the land bank. And I think that as Chris's work evolves off from the grant that we have from the county for his salary at this point, this will enable us to extend his role going forward. and better represent the cost associated with managing the land bank, and many of the things that we do under the other grant are appropriate to do under the land bank structure. Other land banks around the town, the state are doing those things. And, we're trying to align grant money to how the work is being done. So, we would recommend that, we approve it. We believe it's an appropriate amount based on the anticipated work. And it's an appropriate amount based on the fact that the total grant is 100,000. And there are other expenses related to operating that.
So we're seeking a motion to authorize me as chair to execute the administrative services contract with the Columbia County Land Bank Corporation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
There's really no specific update on the Columbia Forward program. I mentioned the meeting in Chatham as an example in my report, so move from there.
Okay. Membership development is something we're going to table until the next meeting, but we need to have a discussion and try to form some sort of task force to focus on how we can expand the number and involvement of business members in CEDC. So we'll talk about that in depth next month. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 27th?
Make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion is carried.
Mr. Chairman, I have further items.
Go ahead, please.
One is, we received a call from Quinn County partners who own a parcel across from the falls in Greenport. They were the successor in interest to Greenport Crossing, which was a project that CEDC had invested in before I got here, and it had gone bankrupt. And they purchased the property out of bankruptcy. We had made a loan to Greenport Crossing that was secured by a mortgage on that property. Apparently, when they purchased it, they didn't know or follow through on having that mortgage discharged. Apparently, they're either going to finance it, something for that project, or they're going to sell it. And they have come to us asking for a discharge of the mortgage from their predecessor that had gone bankrupt. And presumably during the bankruptcy proceeding, the trustee or the court should have cleaned that up by getting that released. Andy and I reviewed it, and we're recommending to the board that you approve allowing us to sign a discharge of mortgage in connection with a project that went bankrupt, and we wrote the loan off 10 years ago.
And it looks like there were actually two loans, and it looked to me like the satisfaction was executed and recorded on only the one. So there is actually, like, the board previously voted to file the sats, and this does happen, from time to time.
This is the old Vino Press property. There's a convenience store there now. Is that the location I was talking about?
Where is just beyond, yeah.
It's a vacant lot between Yonder Farm and A&W, I think.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
The other properties.
On the words, they bought it.
So, what do you need? You want to take up a collection or?
Yeah, will we get a fee or?
I tried, but no.
So we need a motion to
Authorized execution of the satisfaction.
Second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
My logic on no fee is, we'll work with whoever buys it so we can get, an IDA fee. Because it will obviously, they'll need our support to, do something nice. One last thing, I put in front of you a letter that we received last night from Penrose. And Penrose is a Brooklyn developer, affordable housing developer. They're seeking to redevelop 65 units of housing for people who are over 55. And they'll consist of 1-bedroom and studio apartment units in the former J.L. Edwards School. The housing will be considered affordable with availability to people with 60% of the area median income. The developer entered into a contract in April to purchase the property for $2.1 million from the Hudson City School District, and is also seeking the property to be rezoned from the R1 zoning district reserved for one family residence buildings to a multi-resident building zoning classification. The Common Council passed a resolution last week with respect, they submitted a petition to the council for the zoning change. They unanimously voted to approve making itself the lead agency to review that request and then proceed presumably to vote on it at a future date. Penrose has a contract with the school district. It is subject to approval by the taxpayers in the district. That vote has not been scheduled yet. The timing of the school district's approval of the contract did not coincide with the May school district budget vote. So it's going to have to be a special vote, presumably in the next month or so. Penrose, this is a $40 million project. They are interested in securing a $5 million grant from New York State for infrastructure. And Chris, could you just give a quick snapshot of that grant program?
Yeah, this is, it's a new pot of money. It's $100 million that is specifically for pro-housing communities, which you're tired of me talking about those. I'm sorry, I'm really proud about what we did there. So the pro-housing community certification allows Hudson or projects in Hudson to qualify for this grant. It's $100 million statewide that's broken up into the economic development region. So in the capital region, there are currently 37 certified pro-housing communities, and Columbia County has 12 of those. So it's a great program, and this is a really good project. I know people have been looking for the JLE school to get developed for quite some time. So we're hopeful that this will go forward and that we can play a role in it.
The issue is that in order to apply for this grant, there's a limited number of eligible applicants. Municipalities, industrial development agencies, or local development corporations like CEDC. They are asking us to be the applicant on their behalf with respect to this grant. This is something that we're not going to ask you to consider today because there are a number of other opportunities or issues that we want to address first. After the election today, we'll talk with the city. Are they interested in being the applicant? We've had preliminary discussions with the county. And we've had a discussion with the county IDA. And we still have to discuss it with the city IDA. We didn't want to get in the midst of, let's get through today's election and see, what, ideally the city or the city IDA or HDC would be the applicant because the project is in the city. But there's some indication that the city would prefer that the county or CEDC undertake this role. We would get a fee. The letter outlines how the process would work. They said there's not a lot of administrative work, but they conceded yesterday that Office of Community Renewal would manage the grant for the state, and we would get the normal administrative fee to do the paperwork necessary to get them reimbursed under the grant. One of the issues is to apply for this grant, they need to have an applicant. The applicant, because they're all public entities, need a vote of their board to approve their chair to submit the application. The application is due on July 31st. We have a board meeting on July 23rd, if we're the last best hope. The county's meeting would be July 9th. And the city IDA would have a meeting on, would have to have a special meeting as with the county IDA. We're hoping to find a way to get this done in the simplest and most direct manner. But we may be coming back and asking this board to consider serving in the role of the applicant for this project. We are, before we go too far in lining up the appropriate willing party to be the applicant, I do want to be sure that the fact that they have a contract with the school district that has not yet been approved by the voters, gives them sufficient control of the property to be an applicant in the first place. For the project to be eligible. I don't wanna get special favors from one of the 6 potential groups that could be the applicant here. And then find out that the application's rejected because they didn't have site control as defined by the state in the application process.
So we know, I'm pretty sure this is the group that's doing that Golden Hill
Yeah,
project.
Kingston?
Yeah.
They're top notch.
Oh, I know. That's why I just wanted to know if we've had any dialogue with, Kingston and Ulster
I
County.
spoke
See
with,
how's that going?
I spoke with Mayor Noble, I'm on the board of Ulster Savings Bank,
Yeah.
and, he's very, very pleased with them. They went in and tore down the county jail, and they're building a city community
Much
out
larger
within the
project.
city, which
That's right.
I always get nervous. You're creating basically a new downtown. I think it's 500 units.
500.
500 units. The key here is if that building stays empty any longer, it'll be like the Rojan School where it'll get, beyond the point of being able to be redeveloped. Certainly in the city, the 55 plus 60% median income cohort is, one that is in severe need of housing. I think we saw from the patterns report that we had done for the city, there is sufficient housing for people at the lowest,
In the pipeline, yeah.
income bracket. And the city did lose sufficient number of people in the 60 to 100% income bracket, over the last 5 years. Again, it's really, we're not the first responsible party here, but if it meant that, the project would go forward for another year, without us stepping up, I might ask you to consider that, but I'm not suggesting today that we do that because I think you need to review this. We'll get you some information on the program. And obviously, I feel there are other people who are more directly situated, but,
Why is the program specifically for 55 plus? Like that grant, we just saw that data of declining.
this grant is for
Why
any,
we're excluding school age families.
this grant is for any project. But they're going to also apply for a low-income housing tax credit. The difficulty is with redoing a school as an adaptive reuse. The costs are so much higher than building from scratch.
Right, I'm just wondering, why is it age restricted?
It's age restricted from another program, not for this grant.
And the 55 plus allow 20% that are under, is that part of the?
But about 20% of the units set aside for people that aren't.
Yeah.
I don't know how that specific program works. The program, there's another HDR program that they're using that's relatively new. So that's part of their capital stack. That program, I'm not sure they.
I think we've seen our role as an organization, as a facilitator, and find ways to get things done. It doesn't always mean you should do it. But I didn't want to bring this up on July 23rd and have it be the first time you heard about it. Because I would vote no too if that was the case. I'm hoping we don't have to, but we'll get some additional information out to you as this evolves. Good, thank you.
Any questions, further questions on this, Penrose proposal? We'll talk about it after the next meeting. Anyone have anything else they want to bring to the good of the order? Anyone from the public, joining us today? Maybe not. Looking forward, to next month. Finance Committee is meeting on Tuesday, July 15th, Loan Committee meeting Monday, July 21st. The board meeting on which Tuesday in July? There are 5 Tuesdays. We meet on the 4th Tuesday, we meet on the last.
Meet on the,
The 23rd.
let's see, oh wait, let's see. You're right, meet on the 29th.
Tuesday, July 29th is the board meeting. Thank you. Our president will be on vacation. June 26th through July 11th, I good, good, all right, whenever you're ready. I want to thank Rachel Levine and Steve Vandenberg for teaching how to golf at the Chamber Golf Tournament on June 9th in the pouring rain. Representing the EDC. We did the best we could. But thank you. Anything else? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you, have a great holiday, 4th of July.